Hello, everybody, and welcome to NoDiggity versus Polarity. I'm Llama Down Under. I'm gonna be joined by Scansel this
10
time because
seconds
Gorgon
remaining.
has to go and cast his own America's match. Is starting right quick. I don't know
5
about you, Scant,
seconds
but I
remaining.
am hella excited for this one.
Yep, definitely exciting. I think you said at the end of your
Radiant
last cast,
team
No
ban.
Diggity, one of the favorites to take the European qualifier, and I definitely agree with that. And
Dire
right
team
before this,
pick.
they actually won 2-0 against Team Empire. I didn't get to catch much of that series, but surprising result for me. I don't know how close it was. Like, sort of expecting to split the series. Puts Empire against the ropes, who've already drawn one and lost one, whereas No Diggity come in with a 2-0 victory. And
10
interesting thing
seconds
for me is I
remaining.
noticed they picked Venomance in both of their games against Empire. One
Okay,
time as a
5
support and
seconds
one time as a
remaining.
core.
I don't know if
So
you've been seeing that the whole like Venomonster core winning games, and
Radiant team
I
pick.
don't get it. No, that's not true. I'm really happy that this patch we're already seeing a bunch of heroes who are kind of not super hyped coming back.
I
Uh,
mean, Wings won ESL and they picked Venomancer
yeah.
like many times. So that's, I
10
mean, it's not
seconds
even
remaining.
necessarily a patch thing. I mean, it is typically what happens at the start of new patches. Things that
5
are working
seconds
really well right at
remaining.
the end of last patch, people are looking into that as well. And um,
Vengeful
Wings have been
spirits.
doing Veno forever, and
Radiant
No Diggity is
team
certainly the kind
pick.
of team that has, they have Synderen. He's gonna analyze, he's
Dire
gonna watch
team
those
pick.
tournaments, he's gonna watch teams, analyze what they do with heroes, how they're useful, and definitely I think Venomancer goes well with Void. It throws a lot of damage into Chronosphere, so could come out in this game, whereas Polarity have started with the Venge, which is really good against the Void, and the Doom, which Doom has just
10
kind of been the,
seconds remaining.
I feel like the most consistent hero in the meta game in the last month or so.
5 seconds
Second half of
remaining.
6.86 and then early 6.87. Doom's been everywhere. Offlane Doom, four
Reserve
position
time.
jungle Doom. Some teams even running the
Venomancer.
safe lane Doom, and they do go for the Veno again. So
Radiant
I
team
think
ban.
Synderen is just like, you know, looked at teams like Wings, been like, hey, this team's done really well with this hero. Let's think about it and come up with the explanation. I mean, I'm not sure what it is. Like, I think the hero does lots of useful things, but I don't want to pretend that I'm in his position. But clearly
10
clearly he's
seconds
evaluated
remaining.
this hero's great, and he started to prioritize it.
I just really like
5
that, as you
seconds
mentioned, looking
remaining.
to other scenes. Obviously, they probably watched ESL, right? And it wasn't just Wings. That I think Feno saw some play in We Play
Dire
as
team
well.
ban.
Although, of course, didn't catch all of the games. Just saw a lot of
Yeah,
the.
it did.
Actually, I caught the Veno game, but it did get played. It dominated, and it's something where a lot of people, as you said, prioritizing Doom, but Venomancer Faceless Void that can set you up for a nice
10
Poison Nova
seconds
all over
remaining.
everybody, and that's super powerful as well. Now,
5
I personally
seconds
think
remaining.
Diggity in this matchup is the favored team. Polarity hasn't had the most amazing results as of recently, despite having a pretty
Radiant
star-studded
team
team.
ban.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Polarity, they star started, but they also thrown together. Remember, this is a team that
Dire team
formed
ban.
out of necessity. Like, okay, Pasha got kicked, and Phobos and Lil got kicked. Alpha Ninja's around, and um, sorry, I always forget what other people call. I call him Mika because that's I used to know that player by that name. They kind of threw
Xenia,
themselves
10
together.
the
seconds
purple
Xenia,
one.
remaining.
there we go, Xenia.
I
Yeah.
think if I remember right, it's like Xena.
5
Yeah, his
seconds
I think his
remaining.
old nickname was Miko or something, and he's one of the he and Lil used to play with South Africans. That's basically long
Reserve
story
time.
short. Top South African players used to play with those particular two Russian players, and so we kind of had a relationship with some of them, and that's why there's like nicknames associated. But in any case, the point I was making is that this was not like a long in the works. These players all want to play together team. This was like a we're kind of scraps, and I think that's worked against Polarity. It's also worked against them that they don't, you know, they've changed around who they want to draft. It's not clear who their in-game leader is. None of the players in their team
Oh.
historically have been in-game leaders. So
Radiant
there's a lot
team
of
pick.
gaps in their team, whereas No Diggity, I would say, is like a very complete looking team with a lot of room to grow as well. When you look at players like Kezu in particular, very new to the game, shown a lot of promise very quickly. And I do believe in the previous series, the
10
game they had a
seconds
Void,
remaining.
they ran support Venom. The other game they ran core
5
Venom. So I don't
seconds
know if
remaining.
that's significance, if that's a telling sign. I don't really think so. I think you
Reserve
can run
time.
a core Venom along with a core Void. I think that's definitely a possibility.
Gyrocopter.
Dire
Okay,
team pick.
there's gonna be the gyro from Polarity. This isn't terribly unusual. They really like it. A lot of teams have been picking up the gyro, and it's something nice. But I wonder what NoDiggity's response is, because
10 seconds
the Venom,
remaining.
it kills very slowly often, and Gyrocopter might put out a lot of damage.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, that's an
Or he
interesting
goes down
point.
is what I mean. Like, they don't have something right now on NoDiggity that's killing you super fast. So Gyrocopter may be able to turn around, and similarly with Doom, right? Doom is very tanky. So
Also, Gyrocopter likes to buy lifesteal, which is quite nice against the poison, the sustain constantly. Um, but that's the thing. Like, we have to get to the hearts of like what's so good about Veno actually. Why do teams like to like the thing that I noticed from Wings seemed to be that they liked that their Veno could kind of solo fight in the mid game. That their Veno could they ran the Veno as a core almost always Wings. And then come mid game, the rest like they do it. They often pick Veno in their Alchemist strategy, and the Alchemist and everyone else is just like
Radiant
working
team
about
pick.
let's get Alchemist farmed. And in the meantime, Veno's like got this early peak where just with some levels and couple items can actually be enough to turn the tides of those early fights. Um, that's about the damage. It's also just about the slow. It's about the ward spam, making it very
10
difficult for the enemy
seconds
team to push.
remaining.
Teams seem to be struggling to push a little bit more in this
5
patch than they,
seconds
than they did
remaining.
last patch to start with. It's a bit to do with the towers providing auras. The tier 2s obviously deal
Reserve
more. The tier
tower.
1s also, but all of them give you armor aura, which means if you're standing defending your tower, you're obviously stronger than you were before.
yes,
And the Venom wards obviously like contribute to the same thing.
right, we haven't talked about that, but for those of you who, I know some of you here who probably just tune into the big games, this is, I know, considered one of the bigger tournaments. A patch was just dropped, which made it much harder to dive under towers and kill people, made it much harder to siege towers since they give an aura of armor. Depending on which tower it is, the armor is buffed. But stuff like Veno now, you just put up the wards and you wait. It's not so easy to kill off the Veno. It's not so easy to siege those towers. And so maybe that's part of why the Veno is getting popular, although as you mentioned, was played on the previous patch. For Polarity, they ban out the Enigma and the Invoker, two things that NoDiggity has a lot of success with, and then a Viper ban out along with the Jug from NoDiggity. The Viper to me just reads, I kind of wonder what mid hero we're getting, because that reads to me as we don't want our mid to have any trouble.
Yeah, makes me wonder if they're running their Veno mid, to be honest, because I don't think Veno wants to be against Viper. I think Veno can do alright against most mid heroes. I think Viper's one of the worst ones, because I think the Viper's Nether Toxin, if I'm correct, I think it should work on the wards as well, which means it's quicker at dealing with the Plague wards, quicker at harassing and outlast hitting. So maybe it is going to be a quirk for Veno in this game. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a part of me I've been wrestling with whether I should actually say this or not, but there's a part of me that thinks that it's an actual factor in Venomancer's place in and out of metagames that people don't like to play this hero. Like nobody really likes Venomancer, and I think it's almost like because it's like surface level unattractive, it needs to like make an even stronger case than another hero might have to for why it's a good hero before it gets into a metagame. And I think those kind of things actually do make a difference in metagaming. Metagaming is not always just about what is objectively the best thing. There's some part of what do the players on our team like to do or feel like doing or enjoy doing, and then we try and
10 seconds
with
remaining.
that in mind, with what's good in mind, try and come up with some kind of middle ground. And
5 seconds
usually
remaining.
most players on most teams just don't want to play Venomancer, so it could be that this hero's been very, very strong
Reserve
for a long
time.
time, and it just what it took was some teams saying, hey, look, you must play this hero, it's really good.
I think you bring up a really interesting point. A lot of people are probably going, wait, what on earth are you guys talking about? But it's really true. For example, some other good examples are Universe, talking about how he doesn't actually
Radiant
like playing
team
Darkseer
back.
and getting very frustrated with games where he'd have to play Darkseer over and over because it was very strong. Or similarly, in the CIS region, we see a crap ton of Chaos Knight and then maybe not anywhere else because those players would rather play Chaos Knight sometimes over the Tiny or the Sven,
10 seconds
especially when there's an
remaining.
IO in the game, and it just really can help change up the meta and change up what you have to deal with. NoDiggity though, go with the
Dire
Tinker.
team back.
So that's probably going to be our mid hero unless we see some safely informing Tinker. It's been done before in professional Dota, not expecting it here. And Tinker has been causing a lot of problems for teams. I don't know how much you caught of the open qualifiers, but Tinker was used quite heavily in the
10
European region.
seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's become very popular with the new patch, and again, this is like the exact
5
opposite of
seconds
Venomancer. This is a
remaining.
hero that everyone always wants to play, and as soon as there's like some sign of life in Tinker as a hero in a metagame, you'll
Reserve
see lots of
time.
teams testing it out because it's really fun to play, and every team usually has someone who's played Tinker many times and really wants to have that Tinker game. I believe Qualifier is the Tinker player for NoDiggity. I think he has historically played for other teams many times. I think he's one of those Tinker spamming players. I hope I'm not horribly wrong about that.
Oh yeah, he is. I mean, he was on Team Tinker, so he knows how
Yeah,
to
well there
spam
you
Tinker.
go. Yeah, so he must be a Tinker player because that was made it full of Tinker players. So yeah, it's interesting
10
to see
seconds
the Tinker
remaining.
pickup. I think over here, funnily enough, the Shadow Fiend pickup is actually more interesting. I mean,
5 seconds
a couple of
remaining.
months ago we'd never be saying that Tinker was unheard of and Shadow Fiend was everywhere, but Shadow Fiend really hasn't been everywhere in the last couple of patches, and
Radiant
it's.
team
I mean,
pick.
the change to SF in this most recent patch was just his Ags, I think, or was there another change? I think they buffed his Ags.
Or Tinker?
No, to Shadow Fiend.
Oh yes, Shadow Fiend's got a
10
couple. Okay, so
seconds
Shadow Fiend's
remaining.
Requiem of Souls got changed slightly, like the width of the souls
5 seconds
bursting out
remaining.
and the range, and then his Ags got buffed a lot. A lot of people making the case that it might be more viable to go,
Reserve time.
but it just feels like with some changes to. I'm not sure whether it was the bounty rune change, just some changes to how
10
mid lane
seconds
works, because of
remaining.
course with the bounty rune change, blocking your mid lane now becomes the
5
thing that a
seconds
support
remaining.
does. You don't have these as huge bounty fights as frequently. So it could just be that that helps Shadow Fiend get a better hold in mid, or Polarity just saying, hey, we feel very comfortable playing a Shadow Fiend into a Tinker.
But they're gonna last pick a Bat Rider, which is interesting because that secures, yeah, obviously the Doom is gonna be a 4-position Doom. And I don't know, I mean, look, I'm the first to advocate that 4-position Doom is as much a support as anything else, and people often think it's a greedy pick, and I'll be like, no, it's not a greedy pick. You see Dooms running around actually doing things from the early levels. At the same time, it is a hero that's spent some time in the jungle, is away from zoning, say for the safe lane, and your Venge is your only support here. Obviously, what offsets that is you've got the Gyrocopter in the safe lane, which doesn't need that much support to handle the off lane. But I do think there's some kind of limitation on Polarity in terms of what their supports can do
seconds
early
remaining.
on, and I think that NoDiggity are gonna feel. I don't know.
5
They
seconds
should feel
remaining.
safe in their lane stage. They should feel like they can, to a large extent, predict whatever rotations could come out of Polarity, and I think that that'll make NoDiggity really happy because that's really what you want from a Tinker, right? The
Prepare
scariest thing
for
for a
battle.
Tinker, it's like playing a Sniper or a Storm or something like that. The scariest thing is when they have heroes that can just kill you in your lane right from the beginning non-stop. And yes, the Doom and the Venge can do that, but the way in which they do that is very predictable. You know when Venge is away from lane, and you know exactly the kind of gank that a Doom presents.
Something else I did want to mention, of course, Era, one of the most famous tiny players, right? This guy knows this hero, right? It's one of his like all-time best heroes. I think a lot of people will know of his tiny. So he has a 70% lifetime win rate on it. And
Yeah,
if you know Era's history, that's pretty damn impressive because it's not like Era's always been on tier 1 teams.
yeah, and he's also got a long history of playing
30
it
seconds
without
to
Wisp,
battle.
as far as I understand, which a lot of Tiny players only really play Tiny with Wisp, and Era many times I've seen him play this hero on its own, so very comfortable to play the solo Tiny, the get a blink, make pickoffs Tiny, or the farm up Tiny.
Let's do player introductions right quick, just because some of you maybe don't know. You're wondering what on earth we got going. We got Cinderin on the Lion. Let's see if he can fulfill the prophecy of Cinderin dies. Team fight 1 for Dig. Yapsaw going to be playing that Venomonster. I think Yapsaw one of the first 8,000 matchmaking point players. Era on that signature tiny of his. Koikva on the Tinker. And finally, Kezu, the monster from Han, who's been shown a lot of good work in Dota so far, despite, I think, under a year since he transitioned to Dota 2 on the Faceless.
Yeah, less than that. And on the side of Polarity, Alpha Ninja's playing Shadowfiend in the mid lane. That is kind of a signature hero of his. He's played for a very long time. Lil and the Doom just running at Qualifier in that mid lane. On their bot lane, the safe lane, they've got Xenia on the support Vengeful Spirits, and Pasha's playing a safe lane Gyro, which is one of his favorite heroes as well, and DK Phobos on the off lane Bat, which is also a hero that he's very, very comfortable with.
So lots of good things for everybody here. I think we should have a good match ahead of ourselves. Bat already being zoned quite well by Yapso. They didn't quite catch this rune. Oh, sorry, this ward. Something else? Obviously, we're starting to see more and more people do the TP outplace award since TPs cost so little. But as we've talked about, the culture of that will kind of fluctuate. Because if everyone's doing it, people are going to stop doing it.
Yeah, it's come in and out already before. I feel like it'll be more in exactly as for the reason you said, because of the cost effectiveness of it, but But you're right, a whole meta can build up around it, and that's something that could develop in the coming weeks.
Batrider, very rough time he's having in that top lane, as is SF taking a bit of damage from the Tinker, but Batrider still has 0 experience. He's gonna try for a creep pull, but Yapzor is there, spitting in his face. Not the easiest of times. Well, Kazu doing much better on the Faceless Void, although arguably a bit easier of a hero to get experience on, since you can just use that time.
Yeah, and the big difference maker here is NoDiggity have 2 supports nearby. I mean, the Veno's standing, the one that's sort of standing to face the Bat. But if Bat thought that Veno was alone, he might be able to take that fight. Whereas knowing that the lines nearby makes it very dangerous. On the other side of the map, the Void only has to deal with the Vengeful Spirit, which is not just one hero, but it's one hero that's really bad at harassing. Actually, Venge is quite good at roaming into ganks, but pretty terrible at zoning. So the Void is going to be getting more in the lane stage, and the trade-off's got to be what Lil's doing. We've got to look at Lil on the Doom and say, what kind of impact is he having in the lane stage? Because that's meant to balance out the fact that their offlaner gets less.
Yeah, and this is really unfortunate here for poor DK Phobos, because he was hoping it was a bountier in top and it was a regen. Normally you'd be happy for that, but not when you can't get any experience. Taking a look in mid lane, it does look like Tinker a little bit ahead of the SF, but of course once the SF gets a few levels, this lane kind of becomes both sides just clear the waves. They're done with it. So
yeah, and Lil's already run into the lane twice, so they're really trying to make sure that SF does get that start and can start getting involved. Tinker's going laser rockets build for now, although saving a point to go back into March. But there is some potential for Shadow Fiend to die if he oversteps. Can happen in these early levels.
especially if a support rotates. The Diggity's supports, they're a little bit difficult to smoke with just because neither of them really have a spell that's longer than smoke break range. But mid lane, if they can make sure they have eyes on the Doom, Diggity, I think they should be able to smoke pretty successfully. Of course, if the Doom's there, it's all gonna go topsy-turvy. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the Tinker saw you there, the Lil. So, not really gonna be able to... I mean, I guess he's being a bother. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third time now he's run into this mid lane, and he is kind of being a bother. He is helping Shadow Fiend. At the same time, Tinker's getting plenty of farm. I don't think Tinker's really that bothered by what Doom's done. And on that basis, I gotta say, the lane stage is definitely favoring NoDiggity.
Oh, Kazu taking a lot of damage. He tries to time walk away. He has another up in 15 seconds, but they don't have the damage. He took a full rocket barrage and, of course, the magic missile. So, he's gonna be okay. Back into base.
Era's going to be a slightly out-farming Pasha because Pasha has to deal with a hero and Era doesn't. And on the flip side, Kezu is going to be getting more than DK Phobos, although DK Phobos can catch up in the jungle. So it goes back to like, there's this extra Doom being run, and usually it can justify itself in the early pressure it applies, but so far in this game, it's just, I don't think that the early pressure has been very relevant. Like, certainly the Tinker's CS hasn't been affected much by it. And that's meant that NoDiggity have just a relative advantage. There's an Invis rune now on FNNJ, so maybe Doom trying to bait the Tinker a little bit here.
Yeah, Qualifier will realize something's up, most likely. We'll see how far out he decides to go. Oh. But, of course, a couple raises could bring Qualifier down, but yeah, he's playing very passively. Thinks that there's something wrong, and that ward will expire as well, so Qualifier... I'm a little bit surprised. Oh, it looks like his supports are rotating in with the smoke. Here we go.
Oh, they're gonna get him. They're gonna get Qualifier.
Oh no, he has gone a little bit too far out. His support's close enough. Another raise he has the long raise. Will it be enough? No, he misses the long raise. There's the Hex. Qualifier can turn around with the damage. The Infernal Blade bringing him down to 42 health. Qualifier doesn't want to be anywhere nearby. He's afraid of the raises. And the two supports will just harass the Doom Sum, and we will still, 5 minutes in, not see our first blood.
Super interesting though, so it definitely justifies the fact that Polarity kept the SF Invis for so long, let the Doom baits, because they get the opportunity, and I think he maybe could have got the third raise. I'm not sure if the ordering had to be different, or if he could have got it right there at the end, but definitely would have been a kill if he did. So it's a nice attempt, and good rotation from NoDiggity as well.
Ooh, okay, they're giving it a go on the bottom lane. Xana taking a lot of damage, but so is Kazu. Will he be the next to go down? Yes, he will. And Pasha will wander away. There are Venom wards poking at him, but Yapzor can't do too much more than that. So, for Dig, first blood in exchange for losing their Faceless Void. Oh, they don't get the tower deny though.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Definitely looked like an opportunity to get the tower deny. But you know what? You don't cry over spilled milk. They'll move on from that, and Yapsol gets an opportunity to get a little bit of solo XP as well, while Kezu's on his way back out, which is he's gonna be very happy about as well because Venomancer really Venomancer can quite easily become the value of an extra core without taking that much space of the map. Just take some levels really, and then suddenly in those fights when you're getting your Nova off, the impact that you're having is almost as if you're running extra core without actually the greed to pay for it.
Now let's talk some timings for these lineups. For Diggity, they could actually go incredibly late with this lineup. Whenever you have a Tinker, obviously with Rearm and a Sheepstick, you can get a lot of work done. But they have a nice early timing window as well, where Qualifier has maxed out laser and rockets, although it looks like he's putting the points into March now. And of course, Tiny, if he can get that early blink, will be picking people off. There we go, the stun onto Qualifier. The Vender's been waiting behind the tower. The razors and the auto attacks will be enough. Yapso unable to get a return kill, especially with Doom just standing there tanking him. Yapso may be in trouble. Will back up to the safety of his tower. And Lion coming through, Cinder and seeing what he can do, but neither will be able to catch someone.
It does look like Ira is actually rushing straight into the Blink Dagger, so that'll be the early timing window for NoDiggity, and a very fast Blink Dagger on Tiny really can set a lot of momentum for your team, especially when you look at the enemy Shadow Fiend, who's just, he's not having the super fast farmy early game he's having an alright farm, but he's gonna get burst down by Tiny as soon as Tiny gets that Blink Dagger and starts going for those rotations. If he catches him out, he could probably solo kill him from 4 HP still at this stage.
I think something else that's worrisome for Polarity is that a lot of their heroes are very low health. With the early Blink Dagger on Era, you're gonna probably see him at level 9 be able to pick off the Gyrocopter, the Bat Rider, the Venge, and the Shadow Fiend. If he finds one of them alone, with just a Avalanche Toss, 1 auto attack combo. So that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and occasionally if you need a little bit of extra damage, you've got the Qualifier rockets from long range just to add that tiny little bit. So the kill combo is definitely potentially there. Interesting, Era does have 2.4k gold, not buying the blink yet. I do still think that that's what he's going for. I think he just doesn't want to reveal it until he has to.
You can always buy it from the base if he's in trouble, because speaking of trouble, there is a smoke gank headed his way. His supports probably have TPs, but he's a bit far away from the tower. Yeah, both supports have TPs, but Era may be dead before they can come in and Venge wrapping around. Era just feeling like something funky is up. TP's out, gets the Blink Dagger, wants to get the kill on bottom with the smoke.
That's actually so good. He showed himself on the lane right before he TP'd and right before he bought the blink. So there's no way they expect him on the other side.
Oh yeah, here we go, the blink forwards, Avalanche Toss combo, and Gyrocopter just deleted from the map.
That's really like clever planning to me, because I don't think there's any reason Gyro has to expect that Tiny could be there and that Tiny could have a blink. There's so many things, like they hadn't seen the blink, they'd just seen him on the other side of the map. Even if they were playing as responsibly and conservatively as they like, he probably would have had like a 3-second window when someone said Tiny's missing, and they wouldn't have known there'd be a blink.
So a really nice play there by Diggity. They are a little bit behind when it comes to net worth, but 1,000 gold at 10 minutes is nothing. One team fight can swing either team, 2 or 3 even 1,000 gold at this point in the game. So not going to be anything to write home about. Of course, Era is topping the net worth shot.
Under attack.
A good time with that.
And things are only going to get better for him because he's, as we said, he's probably going to be able to find more kills, and he's probably going to get a lot of farm. I mean, it's very difficult for the enemy team to get ahead of him, to like try and gank him. They can try and bait, they can try and anticipate where next he's going to gank and be ready, but that's kind of why I'm complimenting the first rotation is so good, because NoDiggity did so well to disguise the fact that he was making the rotation at all.
Interestingly, Polarity are going for the early mech up on the Shadow Fiend. They want to fight early. They want to get out and do business. They almost have the blink on DK Phobos, and I imagine that along with having the mech will be the timing where they say go.
Yeah, I think that's pretty appropriate. I think it's the best way to get value out of the Gyrocopter. Going late, you're dealing with all these... Lion can catch you out, Tinker can catch you out, Tiny can catch you out, Void can catch you... Like, there's so many ways that even if you're super farmed, later on the game is very, very dangerous if you have Polarity. So I think it makes sense that they want to capitalize on the early peaks of the heroes, which at that point I think the Tinker will still be very weak, won't be that maneuverable, can't do that much in those fights. And I agree with you. I think the Batrider blink might be, get the mech on the SF, get the blink on the Batrider. That'll likely be the time where they start grouping, going for some objectives.
Gyrocopter also working towards those drums. That's going to be another nice boost for his team. Certainly help them siege towers, get objectives. So we'll see whether they just wait on the blink to go. Similarly, Faceless Void now starting to get some good solid farm up in the bottom lane.
Yeah. So I mean, Kezu always somehow finds space in the void. I mean, he had an easier lane to start with, so he was always doing all right. In fact, the Batrider has overtaken his farm just because it's a Batrider, and that's the nature of other hero farms. But Kelzu's pretty good at this, actually, deciding when to find space and when to... Some Faceless Void's like, I have Chrono, I need to go do something.
Oh, they're trying to cast the Doom onto Koikfa, but he jukes them. But here it is, the Doom going to be coming out. Hex immediately thrown out onto Lil. There should be a stun to follow this up, but the cooldown going to hit onto Cinder and Rocket Barrage. He will fall. Faceless Void thinking about coming in, but with no follow-up damage. They will have to back on out. Is Koikfa actually... Oh, okay, we have a grip onto someone. That's not going to be good. They'll lose Yapzor. 2 supports going down. Luckily, Koikfa makes it to the fountain.
And it's interesting because I think that NoDiggity could have been looking at the item builds of Polarity and saying the same thing we were saying. They're waiting for Blink on Bats, they're waiting for Mech on SF. And
okay, we have a pick.
On...
Oh no, it's not enough damage. The stun coming out from Venge. Now the Rocket Barrage. Pasha not in range though, but Rockets coming out of Tinker. There's a swap that she didn't want to make. And with the March of the Machines down, they should get the kill onto this poor hexed up Gyrocopter. Not quite in range. He just wanders away. Nice one charge pop.
Yeah, I was gonna say before, it's quite interesting that Polarity have pretty signposted timings with the mech and the blink, and then they specifically make a full team rotation before they have either of those items. Again, it's a very clever way to disguise your rotation, where the enemy team party thinks you're finishing those items before you're actually gonna go for the rotation. But NoDiggity get a nice little trade afterwards, so again, things evening out slightly. There's still, if we look at the graphs, there's still a slight lead for Polarity, but it's, tactically, or in terms of the tools available for the teams, they haven't been ahead up until this point, in my opinion, where now with the blink on the Batrider and with the mech on the SF, they do gain some kind of gap in the game.
Well, Gyrocopter has his drums finished up, and we have Diggity maneuvering around the Roshan pit. Both teams have actually been pretty conservative with their scans so far. Obviously, a new ability added into the game, but it's been interesting to see how teams are adapting to using it. And Diggity will have theirs back up. Let's see. They go for it. Era's just chillaxing in this bottom lane. He does not have a TP up for another 10 seconds. So if Dig want to make a jump, it won't be right now. Oh, but they get jumped. The Koikfa catch out. This is disastrous. The Tinker doesn't want to be going down again, but there he'll go. 0, 2, and 1 for Koikfa.
Yeah, maybe a sign of things to come in this game. Because I mean, if not for the Batrider, Tinker party just like automatically wins the late game of this game. Because the Batrider's involved, the game's going to be slightly more difficult for the Tinker. When the enemy team doesn't have catch for your Tinker, you can kind of just passively play the game, control the map, force the late game, and just economically win that way. But Bat is going to be a nuisance, non-stop for Koikfa in this game.
Thank goodness, my move is almost palpable.
Okay,
was that a mistake?
I'm going to guess that was a misclick. These things happen. Maybe also something that we didn't notice. Maybe there was Fawn coming in on the map somewhere because he was about to respawn, and he thought it was worth it to spend the small amount of gold it cost to buy back. Yeah, it was like a 500 gold buyback, so he may have decided getting this creep wave was worth it, but
probably not. I think it was probably just a mistake.
Misclicks happen.
Sometimes you like, when you're dead, you're just like picking around. Maybe he was trying to hold down ult and say, I'm about to respawn. Like someone said go farm top and he wanted to say, I'm still not alive, and then by mistake didn't hold ult and whoops.
Happens to the best of us. So, Cinderin running around with those tranquils. We're at 15 minutes in. We've got a couple of blinks on the field, and of course the mech is up on Shadow Fiend. Do you think it's just Sanj and Yasha next for Alpha Ninja?
No. I think the build shouldn't be... I mean, I don't know. Maybe people haven't adjusted yet, but I think S and Y is a lot worse on ranged heroes these days. Oh, there's actually a successful scan from NoDiggity showing that there are heroes there behind the Gyrocopter. He's not alone. So NoDiggity will know that there's going to be pressure on their tier 1 and they're going to pressure the enemy tier 1 in response. But yeah, going back to the SF build points at it, S and Y got nerfed quite substantially for ranged heroes in this patch. When you proc the aim, it's much less significant, it doesn't slow nearly as much. It's still a pretty good item in terms of stats, but I feel like there might be better ways to build your hero these days. I mean, well look, he's bought an Ogre Club, so it might very well be that S and Y. He could be rushing the BKB, which is also definitely valid, given what they're against.
Or Dragon Lance, who knows?
Yeah, or Dragon Lance, but yeah, just for me personally, I think that SNY is slightly less optimal in these. I mean, we used to, back when SF was super popular, we would see SF rush SNY, and if you get that one meme off, the person's just dead, you're gonna hit lots of razors, and I don't think that will be the case anymore.
Interestingly, I believe Era making up the Echo Saber.
That is very interesting. I mean, it's Tiny. Tiny's got to be one of the best heroes for this item. This is actually something I've seen in pubs a few times. Because Tiny's a hero that is super slow attack speed and super high damage, so you get that free hit. But Tiny is gonna be in trouble
has
now.
been doomed. Can the Tinker help save him out? They need the
Deny.
deny on Tiny. He will get it, and they will catch nobody. Qualifier should be good to run it on off. He doesn't have his blink yet, but the Doom. Oh, actually, Doom has his blink. But other than the Tinker, there's nobody else around to help catch him out. Finger going out onto Alpha Ninja with the stun as well in the Chronosphere. They managed to pick him off, but immediately Batrider grabbing Cinderin. It's a valuable trade for Dig either way.
Syndrone's always happy to go down if it means a good trade for his team. It's happened a couple of times already in this game. Once he died in his jungle, so the Tinker could escape, and now he dies so that they can kill the SF. I think it's totally fine. Will be nice if we can get to Blink Dagger at a later stage, but it's not exactly the #1 priority for the team at this point.
There's a definite lead coming out of the folks on Polarity. About 2,000 gold here, and it's kind of interesting. I was expecting Dig to farm a little bit better with the Tinker, but he has been having trouble just farming, has had to bots in a few times to try and help out his teammates, and obviously they've lost a number of tier 1s already as well, so it makes it less safe for Tinker to play around the map.
I mean, it's because they have Void. It's what we were talking about before. Like, even though the Void are easier, the Void doesn't have like a flash farming mechanic. No, he has an Iron Talon, he has a Blood, he's pretty good at farming, but he's gonna farm slower than the Bat. He's actually, at the moment, his net worth is slightly better than the Bat, but I think that's just because of the Bat's recent involvement. Like, I think that the heroes that Polarity have much more naturally farm. Also consider the fact that one of their supports is a Doom, so it's devouring creeps, it's getting that extra gold just like that. It just, like, I think the compositions on the team are such that if the game is roughly even, Polarity are always going to be slightly out farming, and until much later when Tinker's sort of controlling the whole map if it can. I don't think it's that telling of the actual status of the game though, that Polarity have this small amounts of XP and gold lead.
So, Lion going to just continue working towards that Blink Dagger. Another thing that I find to be really interesting on this patch is these games so far that we've had today have been incredibly slow. I've seen a couple bloodbathy ones, but a lot of teams seeming to prefer to sit back and farm. So
yeah, it depends a bit on the region. Oh, okay, Lil's blinked in to try catch Syndrome, but he's too slow at the Doom. Syndrome gets the Hex on him.
yeah, and the Batrider will be looking for the lasso. Cinderin probably going to be burned down here. Rocket's coming out. Qualifier has to be careful as well. Cinderin will fall. And Doom looking for more. Can he find? No, the TP away from Tinker. And Ven is just checking. While Tiny, he is in a lot of trouble. He has blink up in 1 second though, so he may be a-okay.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Kezu is coming in, and there's a TP in from Yapsor, so it might be that Pasha ends up being the one in trouble. There's no tower nearby for him, so no one could TP to save him. He could, like, he could try and chase Tiny a bit further. He could try and TP out immediately, or he could try and run. And I think he TP. Yeah, that's the only way to maybe live. Does he get the chrono? Yeah, he does.
And that's gonna be a nice pick off onto Pasha. Tiny even coming back in, saying hello. You don't go on me, I go on you.
So again, Syndrone's death at the top lane was almost designed, like, the reason he went there is in case they're trying to gank Tinker, he can die instead of Tinker, and that's exactly what happened. So it's not like he wanted to die, but it was part of his job in being in that position in the first place, that he might die to save the Tinker. Because like we've already said, there's Zoom that can jump, there's Bat that can jump on Tinker. It's not that safe for Tinker to just be splitting up the map alone.
Yapsor trying to help with the defense. Rockets and March spam coming out. Synderen blinks in, fingers up the Doom, but he is a tanky target, or actually just TP's in. Fingers up the Doom, there's the swap to make sure that he won't be getting more Tinker. Botsing onto the creeps. This is pretty dangerous. He wants to catch the Doom though, and with a laser he will manage to. Looking like Venge able to just walk it all away. SF coming around, channeling that Requiem of Souls. Tinker blinks right into it, but they kill the Venge. Tinker gonna go down to the razors. And all in all, a good team fight. Coming out still for Dig. If they can catch Ninja, who's rocking a DD, but Tiny doesn't care. There will be a call down. Kezu jumping away with the time leap, getting all of his health back. And there is a stun. Toss will be up in 1 second. Can he toss him back to his team? Yes, he can. Share the rocket barrage love. Time lock for good measure. And a huge win for NoDiggity.
Yeah, the only hero that loses the Tinker, and I think that was just because I don't think I'd seen the SF when he blinked. He could have blinked differently so that the SF couldn't kill anyone. But yeah, I agree. Very, very big win for them. Starts off with a strange initiation where at the start when you were talking about how Synderen had fingered off Doom or was chasing him out, most of the team then tried to help the Doom. The Venge went there and swapped him. In the meantime, the Batrider had actually blinked in deep and ended up just kind of like blinking to his own death, dying to everyone else in NoDiggity while, you know, you don't want to be a bat blinking into the enemy team, fighting everyone on your own, while the enemy support Lion is like zoning out the rest of your team. That's clearly not the plan.
A nice team fight there for NoDiggity, and that'll help really turn around the gold lead. Also, just, it felt like, I thought that Requiem by the SF was going to be the best thing ever, but ends up blowing up in their faces. It is going to be the BKB on SF like you predicted, not going for the Sant and Yasha anymore. It's not the time. So
yeah, I mean, the SF's Requiem is the only reason that the Tinker died, right? He wouldn't have gone off those raises, they wouldn't have killed the Tinker, but unfortunately the fight was... The position was so precarious to start with that I don't think Polarity... They kind of needed to cut their losses and just all run away. I think they could have probably lost 2, maybe 3 heroes and killed nobody, but they kept trying to sort of fight their way back into the fight and end up all dying as a result.
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified.
Dig going to... I mean, they have the advantage if this game just continues slowly like this. It's really on Polarity to make something happen.
And wow, the support Venomance has a Blink Dagger now, plus level 2 ulti, so these fights are going to start looking really, really difficult for Polarity. Like, they haven't... I don't feel like the window where they got the mech and the Bat Blink, I don't think they got much out of that window at all, to be honest. They killed Lion a few times, that's what they did. And that's why I keep going back and saying, like, a lot of, like, some of the deaths that Synderen has, 2 of them in fact in this game, it's not that he's suiciding or something, but it's very definitely part of the plan. Like, get into a position where, worst case, I die, not my Tinker, and it's really impressive play by him actually.
Yeah, a lot of people, we joke about Synderen, Synderen dies, the team fights one for Diggity. It's actually very true. He Pylai dies, I think a lot of people more familiar with that strategy, but he's been tanking smoke ganks. He's been tanking ganks meant for the Tinker. The lowest net worth hero on your team dying, you'll take that any day. Not only is it way less gold swinging over in favor of Polarity, if it means your Tinker lives and then farms up, you know, another 800 gold or something, it's super worth. Meanwhile, Era, he's finished the Echo Saber, he's hiding in the trees, working on, I'm guessing, a Silver's Edge, because it's been buffed a lot for all heroes with some of the item, the change up of the build up. But meanwhile, he's just hiding deep in the trees.
Yeah. Shadowblade's nothing new on Tiny. Tiny's like to get the item in the mid game to start running rampant and just making kills.
Oh, okay, we get the immediate pick off onto Kezu, and this probably signals that Era will TP away if he can, because he does not want to fight without Kezu.
It's super interesting to me seeing Qualifier go for the 4-staff. I'm not sure, like, you say you've seen a lot of Tinker games recently. Is 4-staff something you've seen being bought in the hero?
Yeah, I think it's just a positioning tool here, right? Stopping someone away from the bat. There's going to be a pick-off on Ninja. Doom coming in, though. Ninja finally goes down. The Venge getting very low, standing in this March of the Machines. And they should be able to take out Lil as well, getting sucked off by Synderen. All of his mana gone. Auto-attack down. He does get the return kill onto Yapzor. But a 3-for-1, if we don't include the earlier kill on Kezu. Another good series of kills for Diggity. Let's see if they can catch up. And that's the power of the 4-staff, right? Helping Era gap close.
Yeah. I mean, I think 4-staff's a great item on Tinker. It's just usually the hero doesn't buy the item. So I'm trying to figure out. It's not that I dispute the merits of the item. I think the merits of the item are self-evident. I'm just wondering like what was the thought process in this game that like this game I need a 4-star. Is it there's just things to get you out of position in terms of the swap and the bats, and maybe it's you want to be able to blink forward and then you've got your 4-star to get you back as well, because the one time he did blink in and ended up in an awkward position, couldn't do anything about it. I'm not sure.
Do you think? Okay, there we go. There's gonna be the toss up. The BKB is popped. Not quite enough damage, but he does force out a BKB charge, which is always really powerful at this stage in the game, and he will get out cleanly. That was the
And
10-second BKB.
Look at the movements. You see that? There was like 5 Radiant heroes in this area of the map reacting to the fact that Tiny, on his own, gone for a solo kill. So, yeah, you waste the BKB, you also draw the entire enemy team to you, and at no cost really to you or your team. Everyone else is just continuing to farm.
Yeah, another good play by Diggity coming out here. They are about a 5,000 lead ahead, 4,000 experience as well. They are performing exceedingly well in this game. To be ahead right now, really impressive. And again, the impetus is on Polarity to do something. I wonder if the 4-star... I don't think he'll make the Hurricane Pike, but I could see Qualifier saying, look, with Batrider also having a 4-star, maybe we need a 4-star to get people out of fire, get people out of cooldown. As you said, the Venge swap. The only other offensive capabilities I can possibly see is attempting to 4-star someone into a bunch of March spam, but that doesn't seem like enough to merit it.
I mean, now that you mention it, I'd love to see a Hurricane Pike just because rearm Hurricane Pike spam just sounds like it would be really funny to watch.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
Or just like every time you come defend, you just get shoved backwards. I mean, I don't think it's the build, and yeah, 4-star has immense utility on this hero. It has immense utility on any hero, and this hero can cool it down whenever it wants.
I think it could also just be that because there's already a blink up on the Batrider, he's worried about being blink followed into the trees, and a 4-star can just give you that extra distance for your TP to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, although at the same time the Bat's got his own 4-star as well, so if he's gonna catch him, he's gonna catch him. Yeah, look, I don't know if we need to linger on it, because there's definitely clear merits of the item. I just, personally, I'm curious, you know, I'd love to be able to ask him.
It's not the typical Tinker build.
Yeah, exactly, so I'd love to be able to ask him, like, obviously there's lots of reasons why this item's good on your hero, but what were you thinking this game, you know, what was the particular reason that you wanted it, what was the main motivation? There's gonna be a rush trade, tier 2 for rush, pretty classic trade. I don't think anyone can do anything about the trade the other team's doing.
And this is, I think, like,
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
they actually clear the top tower very fast, but this feels like, again, it's in favor of NoDiggity. Because they can now be even more aggressive with the Tiny, who's going to be picking this up. He's starting work on that Aghanim Scepter, but suddenly that plus the Echo Saber, if Era catches you out, you're dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is I mean, even though we call this a classic trade, it always favors the Dire team when they get the rush and the Radiant team gets a tier 2. I would say there's almost never a case where the tier 2 is worth more, unless you like a drow strategy and you're about to go finish the game or something.
Definitely. So, for Polarity, again, they still do feel like they need to take charge of this game. Obviously, now we haven't mentioned it, we've been talking about how the Dig lineup has a better late game, but of course Gyrocopter can scale well into the late game, it's just with Flat Cannon. Unfortunately, it is only 6 attacks every 30 seconds. We have a grip by the Batrider onto one. Era in a lot of trouble there. That's going to be the Aegis down. They did manage to get the Poison Nova over everyone's head, and they've already picked up the Venge and Lion. But BKB Pasha just walking further forwards. Kezu will be doomed up, and Lion immediately buys back. But all in all, that seems like a good team fight for Polarity.
Yeah. Lion buys back, doesn't actually get anything out of the buyback ultimately. And they get rid of the Aegis, the 1-for-1 trade, and, well, the 2-for-1 trade and the buyback, so definitely a win for Polarity. And it's just the positioning. It's just they happened upon NoDiggity in a really good position for themselves. Intelligence of them to pull back as well afterwards, wanting to get greedy and go for just a bit too much. They definitely could have been punished if they went for a bit too much there, if they continued to fight with the Lion back with a Tiny respawned.
So, Batrider does have the gem up. This is pretty standard. This should be another thing, trying to help Polarity out, getting back in this game. So, see if they can make it work. Qualifier has decided to go the Dagon 1. Obviously, a bit of extra damage I would love to see him go into the sheep, though. Obviously, another core. Uh,
Yeah, it's
Tinker.
different approaches. Typically, we'll see that the Hex is more popular in the very late game, and I think he might just level up his Dagon a couple of times in the meantime, I'm not sure. Alpha Ninja actually is going back for the SNY now, so I guess the stat build-up justifies it enough, regardless. The BKB just was more necessary early on, he couldn't fight without it.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that he goes back for the Sanjanyasha over something like the Scotty. Really interesting, I should say. It's an easy item to build up into, but a lot of players at the 30-minute mark might prefer something like the Scotty, the bigger item. Yeah, and a scan coming out from the Radiant. Gonna see Synderen retreating. You can see the immediate pings. The can we catch whatever's there? But they'll realize from the person going out of the scan that it's someone retreating.
Yeah, it's especially interesting considering that the Gyro isn't. The Gyro is going for the Scotty. He's not going for the, like, let's get SNY right now and fight right now. But the SF is. So, I don't know if that's the balance in it, that one of them can save for a bigger item, the other one can't. And they need to be, you know, have some potential to keep scaling right now and fight right now. Or if it's just they're on different pages and different approaches to how they want to play the game.
Ezu. He has a Manta up. Not really something we always see on Faceless Void. That's actually pretty interesting. Is this him gonna try and bait the Doom onto one of his illusions?
That's certainly one usage. I mean, it's one of the
There's
best
not a
avoid
lot
items.
of things to dodge with it here, though. You're Montaing
Yeah, but
off the magic missile, like Monta dodging that. What?
It's a good stat build-up, and your illusions can attack in Chronosphere. That's really like it's just a good way to DPS with Void. You know, it's kind of like the Void's equivalent of SNY. It's just much better value than SNY because it gives you a lot of damage in your Chronosphere. I'm not sure what he gets next. Does he go for like a Diffusal Blade? That's historically that was a Void build, different Manta, and obviously Diffusal Blade has been buffed recently, particularly for non-illusion based heroes, which
Yeah, no
kinda
for
ironic.
illusions, buffed
Yeah.
for everyone else.
Yeah.
It's just,
Um,
I wouldn't be surprised if he just decides to go for a bit more damage. Also, it's not actually bad here, it feels, for him to make himself more of a target for the Doom. Yes, the Chronosphere is part of their big team fight, but as long as, you know, as long as he's tanking the Doom, it means that both Tinker and the Tiny are fine for the team fight. And looking like, is this gonna be... I don't see a smoke on them, so this is just group ancient farming. Oh, and a BKB finished on the Batrider. Gonna be a pretty big item there.
Yeah, so the game's starting to feel a bit standoffish. In terms of the graphs, we do see that shift's gone in favor of NoDiggity since the last time we looked at them. Again, I still don't think it's like that determinative of the outcome of the game or the state of the game. I don't think we should focus too much on the graphs at this point. What NoDiggity want to do is they want to, you know, aggressively control the map by having the Tinker be able to TP around and push all the waves with March. Unfortunately, he can't do that alone because there's too much catch to jump on him. And so NoDiggity are having to send other heroes with when Tinker wants to farm. They're using him to bait. But that does mean that the farm trade is, I think, mostly even. The sort of zones that each team control the map. Both teams control big chunks of the map at any given time, and what that means is that it's not. I don't want to say that we're like inevitably headed towards some inevitable conclusion. I think that there's still some big fights in this game which could be, you know, very significant in who comes out ahead.
The game's gonna come down to, in my opinion, if Polarity can get a pick on Koitva, suddenly they can siege high ground. They just cannot siege high ground while this Tinker is alive. It's very difficult. And I guess if they got an Aegis, maybe they could slowpoke at the tower since the SF and the Gyrocopter are starting to hit quite hard. But I don't think without that pickoff they can get it. On the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if in a few minutes... First of all, this looks like a smoke positioning. Yeah, Courier's coming. Doesn't actually give anyone the smoke, so never mind. But they do have a smoke ready. And obviously with a Batrider, not terribly difficult to pick off the Tinker if they can get some eyes on him. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying before, by the way. I mean, games, honestly, professional Dota games, the Tinker in them almost always, if they last long enough, come down to is the Tinker alive or not. And usually you need more than just picking up the Tinker. You need to like pick it up when it doesn't have buyback, and that's very, very difficult. Whereas for side of NoDiggity, similar story. They just need
Oh, we have a
pick-offs.
jump onto Lil, takes the finger. He's gonna go down. There we're getting some creep farm while that's happening as well. We've got a Chronosphere catching out DK Phobos. This is going to be another big pick if they can find him. Kazu taking a lot of damage from the Raze. There's the swap. Cinderin coming on in. BKB by Alpha Ninja. They need to run out of the ult. He cancels it. And unfortunately, this BKB maybe not going to do much, but Tinker has been caught out. He will not be in the cooldown. He does take the Requiem of Souls. A few auto attacks. He will go down to this last auto attack. Cinderin unable to save him, and Cinderin maybe unable to save himself. He will walk away and get the blink off. But a 1-for-1 trade, the Tinker making it, I think, firmly in favor of Polarity.
Yeah. Good for him that he just bought his Bloodstone right before that, so doesn't have to spend much time dead, which means the Polarity can't even go for the tier 2. But it's been interesting. Both these teams like quite nervous in their fights about overcommitting. They're both kind of edging around the fights, looking for openings, but not wanting to commit when they don't see a definite opening, and it shows their investment in this match and in this tournament.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for Kazu, not the rest of his team didn't quite have the gap close that he did, so he managed to catch someone out, a pretty important target in DK Phobos, but the rest of his team not able to catch up to him because of the earlier kill. A little bit unfortunate there, but we'll see if they can come back into it. The Axe is up. Oh, did they spot that? They did smoke right on top of a ward, and there are pings coming up, but I can't tell if those are the pings for, hey, I just saw the Tinker up here. It looks like those are the pings if we need to all get back, because suddenly everybody's deep inside their base.
Yep. And
Comes the
I mean,
Polarity smoke.
NoDiggity. Yeah, NoDiggity won't even necessarily know that their smoke was spotted, because sometimes teams can just like judge or get a read on the fact that you're smoking and react accordingly. They're gonna be disappointed they didn't get anything out of it. And Polarity, yeah, now it's time for their smoke. NoDiggity have not seen them, so they need to get out quickly.
Oh, but there is the pull, the lasso onto Era. He's gonna be falling here. He does have Shadow Blade, but it does not, with, of course, a gem on the Bat Rider, no way he can just Shadow Blade out of that one. And a huge pick off there. They'll also get the D-Ward, although that one was about to expire.
Yeah, so the ward really doing the work there. I'm just trying to think, did they already had a gem, right? So was the Veno just not close enough?
Oh, okay, we're picking off Koikva here. He needs to try and get on out. He's just going for the blink away. Has the Force Stealth as well. Yeah, gonna Force Stealth over to the side and go for the TP away, but it stopped! He's gonna have to re-arm again. He does have the mana, but there's a rocket coming towards him. Koikva, the Raze manages to miss. They're gonna have to have Faceless Void destroy this rocket for him. DK Phobos jumping forwards, and Koikva, it looks like he may have made the great escape here. Along with Kazu, will get out. Oof.
That was some Mission Impossible stuff. Very, very close. Could easily have died.
That was actually, I thought Koikva was dead for sure.
Well, Roshan is up again, and probably easier for NoDiggity to secure. I think choke point fights really favor them in terms of Chronosphere, Venom ulti, Tiny's combo, even just the spam of March, well, especially the spam of March, to be honest. So I think NoDiggity probably can secure the rush sometime soon. On the other hand, Polarity kill rush really quickly if they manage to somehow, get a pick off and get themselves there. But NoDiggity are going in right now.
Yeah.
And someone is angrily drawing on the map saying they're there.
The paper crane, actually, or a boat. That could have been a boat with an upside down sail. Just saying, hey, something's happening. So that is good. But will they get over in time? They have all their stuff on CD. This Aegis is going the way of Diggity, though. They have not moved, and it's falling too fast with Era. Pounding away at it.
I mean, I just think Polarity don't want to take a fight in a choke point like that. They want the fights to be more spread. It's exactly what you were mentioning earlier. When the Void catches someone but his teammates aren't nearby, that's when it's bad for NoDiggity. When the fight is kind of concentrated in one small area, NoDiggity look really, really good, I think.
Do you think that it's this patch that is making people so conservative? I mean, we're 40 minutes in, less than 30 kills. What? Is it this patch? Is it just these are super important games, since it is only one team goes through?
It's it's kind of a style thing and a
Oh,
regional
okay,
thing.
we
where
have a
there's-
jump in, the smoke will be revealed, DK Phobos with the BKB, and they throw out the Doom onto Kazu. They will immediately manage to pick off the Venom monster. Finger, though, flying out onto Lil. Again, it's not quite enough, an odd swap coming through, and Dig will just back out. One man shorter. They could try to regoose with the Chronosphere at the ready, but everybody pretty low on mana. Synderen gonna suck off a creep. Tiny jumps in deep and forces out the BKB. Feels like Gyrocopter's been using most of these charges outside of team fights.
Yep, and what's his BKB at now? 7 seconds, so heading down towards 5 seconds. To answer your question before, because it's something you mentioned earlier in the cast as well, and I didn't get to answer there. I think it is quite regional. It's quite style based. There's some aspects of it definitely at this stage in the game where it's about the gravity of the occasion and people just trying to be as careful as they can. But I cast 4 Chinese games in the Chinese qualifier today, and all of them were quite fast. They were all quite done quite quickly. Most of them had heroes like Lifestealer in them, or Alchemist, which just hyper farms and ends the game. Lifestealer, which just gets involved in fights very early. So I'm not sure. I don't want to say that there's any kind of set in stone dynamic for the patch itself. Definitely, it is true that in terms of like pushing towers, tier 1s and especially tier 2s, it doesn't feel like teams as naturally just like get them. I think the tier 2s stay up a lot longer. And there's an easy explanation for why that would be. It's much easier to defend them. They deal more damage. The tier 1s only give 1 armor to heroes, but the tier 2s give how much is it? It's a lot more. It's like, I think it's 3. So defending those towers is obviously much easier, and that is a patch based thing. But I guess the bottom line for me is that I'm not ready to commit to saying the patch itself like forces a certain length or a certain style of game, because I have seen different kinds of things from different regions.
Tinka is continuing to level that Dagon. On game length, NoDiggity is one of the teams with a bit longer average, especially compared to the other teams in this regional qualifier. Polarity games from Lost Patch sitting at a 35-minute average, and then NoDiggity sitting at a 42-minute. Of course, don't have much data for this patch, guys. I'm so excited to see like where this meta ends up after these 4 days of games.
Well, if Tinker remains popular, then yes, game length is going to be long, because Tinker's a hero that always has long games. That's just how the hero works. Like the way that Tinker gets strong and wins doesn't really involve winning quickly. It involves kind of slowly bleeding you out.
Yeah, Tinker, long games, sounds good. There's something going in his favor. It's going to be the Butterfly for the Faceless Void, and also we're seeing a Lincoln's picked up by Yapsel on the Venomancer. So they don't want their Faceless getting doomed anymore.
Yeah, there's the Doom, the Bat ulti, the swap. There's a lot of annoying catch potential, so I think Lincoln's is a nice pickup here.
Okay, here we go. Catching off the DK Phobos. He will die.
Yeah, the only downside is the Venom can't get a Veil or extra damage items. I think it's a pretty small downside because the team is hardly lacking damage.
And I'm not 100% sure you worry about that as much when it does feel a bit like if you can use your Venomous Gale to force out their BKBs, which I think he can, even without an Ags or without a Veil, it's worth it, right? Because those BKBs going off at the wrong time really do help the Tinker and the Tiny's damage output. So tier 2 should be falling here. And we're just going to smack that thing down. And how long do we have on the Aegis? Less than a minute. The Era needs to back up.
I think Lincoln's is just an insanely high value item to buy right here. I'm really happy to see that the episode did buy it, because I just feel like the dynamic of the game currently is that every positive thing for Polarity starts with a pick off or a catch. Like if they, in terms of winning a fight, it has to be by pulling someone away, doing someone. In terms of winning a gank, it's the same thing. It's Polarity's entire like route to winning the game depends on succeeding with the Bat ulti or the Doom ulti or the Venge ulti. That's what they need to do, and Lincoln's blocks all of those things, so makes perfect sense to me.
Casual Doom on the Faceless Void. It was actually to ensure that the Doom could get on out. Reads to me like Polarity not planning on engaging for 100 seconds. Although we have a little bit of a go on to DK Phobos again. He tries to get away, pops his BKB, and they decide not to follow. At this stage, though, BKBs have to be getting very low on Polarity.
And speaking of BKBs, that's an entire BKB on Era now, right? Yeah, he just got it, and 10 seconds up on that. that's gonna be pretty scary when he starts making use of it. If they put the Lincolns on him before he BKBs and then he BKBs and he has both, he's gonna be very, very difficult to handle in a fight.
So taking a look around, Gyrocopter, 3,500 gold. Okay, here we go. Era coming. Oh, misses the stun. The blink away. There's gonna be the toss on the Doom. They should know he doesn't have Doom since he just used it on Kezu. Maybe they can make something big happen here. Where's the Chronosphere? There it is, managing to catch two. They get the Nova onto all of them. And DK Phobos trying to do something here. A nice Requiem on the sidelines, but it's not enough. DK Phobos brought down. There's gonna be Pasha taking a lot of damage as well. Era will fall. No Aegis now. Yabso looks like he's going down. Lincolns or no, and can they find any more? It's a 2 for 2. They did force out a buyback on the Batrider though.
Yeah, it's not the hugest buyback to force out at this point.
Tinker casually motors the Gyrocopter, so heavily in favor of Dig all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a very big kill. And yeah, something that's worth pointing out is the synergy between the Venomancer spamming wards everywhere for vision and the Tinker always connecting. Every time you spam your rockets in a fight, you're gonna connect, and not just the rockets. I mean, the Venomancer's ward sets up for Tiny to catch someone, for Void to catch someone, for Tinker to hit the spells. It's unspoken about, but we talk about Beastmaster's Walk, we talk about Nightstalker's Ags, and Venom wards to some extent has a similar effect on the game. You just throw them around everywhere you go all game, and does give you a vision advantage that creates asymmetry in the game.
Nicely though for Polarity, they've got the Shivas up on the Doom now. A lot of folks did buy something. Shadow Fiend, he buys an MKB, doesn't want to have to deal with this butterfly on the Faceless Void. I was kind of wondering about that. It's good DPS, but it's a little bit interesting to see it on a Faceless Void. And while you can argue maybe it's good that Shadow Fiend is forced into the MKB as opposed to something like the Scotty immediately, it's just a little bit off the beaten path.
I mean, both Jar and SF don't mind buying MKBs, but the point is really that it's a Faceless Void, it's the offlaner. It's not like they're tiny or
Oh, we have a Batrider grip onto one. Synderen immediately following up with the Hex. There's going to be the cooldown. Yapso blown up. Does manage to get the Poison Nova up, but Synderen, he's going to go down as well. Koikva doomed up. Kezu does have the Chronosphere, manages to get it off, but where's the damage output? Era coming to smack from the sidelines. Gyrocopter popping his BKB. Look at Kezu hit. We talked about this. He does so much damage. Dara dumping in, getting the kill off there onto the SF in that BKB, so he doesn't take the damage, although does take the minus damage, and they'll just Dagon down Venge. She never stood a chance. Zena, blown to bits.
I feel like this game is becoming more and more about Kezu on this Void. Like, the times of Polarity win a fight, it's because the Void's not there. In this fight, it looked like Polarity might win, because he wasn't there at the TP base. He took a while to come back in. But he gets there on time, before the fight's over. He gets a really nice chrono. It was actually such a good chrono. Had heroes on the edge, the Tiny could come in and attack into the chrono, which is sometimes pretty difficult in the heat of battle to set up. And yeah, that's kind of that. Turns it around, solidifies the win of the fight for NoDiggity. But I do think those few times where the Void doesn't have chrono, or the Void's not there, or Polarity are making a pick, he's the key, I think. He's the key. He's absolutely the key to his... I mean, his Chronosphere goes through BKB, that's one part of it, right? So the enemy carries... If they BKB, usually they can deal very well with the Tinker, with the Venom, with the Tiny, with all that burst damage, but they get chronoed and the BKB runs out and they get destroyed. Another part of it is just that it's obviously AoE lockdown, and as you said before, Venomancer is also a carry here. Sorry, did I say Venom? Faceless Void is also a carry here. His damage output's huge,
I mean,
so
Venom's
obviously
getting there
not
too.
having him... Venom's also getting there, that's true.
I'll accept Venom is now a carry, but that's the great thing, right? When you run a lineup against a Doom, you want to make sure that you have multiple targets. If you don't Doom the Tinker, then he's gonna cause trouble, but if you don't Doom the Faceless Void, you've lost the team fight already. And then, let's not even talk about Tiny and all the business that he's putting out, although, at this point in the game, if you Doom the Tiny, he's probably gonna stick around and beat you to death, anyway.
Yep. So the game is getting more difficult for Polarity, definitely. They still have the tools to catch people out, and in any game where you catch enough people out enough times, suddenly they don't have buyback, important heroes dead, you can win the game. That's always a route to victory in Dota, and it's why NoDiggity are being careful and recognizing they can just build up all these tools to make it more difficult for that to happen, and they can keep draining the map of resources. there is a route for Polarity back into the game. It just requires NoDiggity to lose focus for more than just a couple of minutes. They need to lose focus for about 10 minutes. Have a serious run of bad players,
Radiant's top tower is under
where
attack.
they do get caught out several times.
As we talked about, NoDiggity have been showing really clean play. Already 2-0'd Empire, another one of the favorites in this qualifier. So, oof. Let's see how it goes. I also have to say I really like how Polarity's using these scans. You can see them now every time it's off cooldown. They're looking for a pickoff with Batrider, trying to see if maybe there's somebody hiding out somewhere where Bat could go. And again, watching these teams adapt so quickly to the patch, it's a joy.
Yeah, though sometimes I don't know. The scans are so interesting. It's something that I think is still going to develop a lot in the metagame. Sometimes I feel like teams that use scans as soon as they cool down are wasting their scans. Like, there's times where I feel like these sort of late game situations where both teams are kind of smoking into each other and you kind of know they're around the corner, they know you're around the corner, but you don't know exactly where. I feel like a scan in that situation, instead of like blinking into fog and seeing who's there, scan, oh okay, there's definitely someone there, now I can blink in and use my spell without looking. Those kind of scans are interesting. I've only seen 1 or 2 of them though in this patch so far. But I'm interested to see if it starts to get used more like that, right before initiating a fight, rather than just for ganks.
Yeah.
Well, Polarity, having used their scan, are now using their smoke.
We'll see if they can get the Aegis again. Aaron not able to hold on to these for too long. There they go with the no, they doom him. But at the same
Where's the
time,
void?
he's invisible. And yeah, as you
Behind
said,
the void.
there is the void. Oh, my 4-man Chronosphere. Only DK Phobos outside of it. As we talked about, Era's gonna come back and beat you. There's the refresher. But Kazui doesn't have enough mana to use the refresher. Requiem of Souls all over their faces. Quickfoot getting very low. Gonna get brought down. These MKB bashes doing so much work. Buyback coming out of Venomancer. Era is right back in there after his second life. Kazu needs mana. He just wants to cast a Chronosphere. It doesn't matter. Despite the disastrous start, finally Chronosphere back up. But they've won the team fight. Alpha Ninja just gonna try to smack people down, but they should be able to get him. They have to do some fancy kiting here because Era getting pretty low to him, but with all of the stuns, they should have him isolated and brought down despite the great Requiem. I thought for sure at the beginning of that Polarity had it when Kezu couldn't use his second Chronosphere.
Yeah, it's it's pretty dramatic, right? He hits a 4-person chrono, and then we see the refresh and we like fight over, and then he can't chrono, and suddenly there's a huge Requiem, and we're like, oh, fight other direction. But ultimately, I think that the first chrono does enough work. Like we've been talking about it all game. They win fights when Void gets a nice chrono, and that's long before he had a refresher. So nothing changes there really. He gets a good chrono, they win the fight. If he had gotten the double chrono, it would have been that much smoother. But it does mean because he didn't, he's got his chrono now, ready for the next fight.
Oh yeah, Kazu gonna just casually take the cooldown to the face, and he's okay with that. They've got March of the Machine. This is the nice thing about a Tinker. You can make sieging a little bit easier because they can't defend. There it is, the second Chronosphere, the finger and the F-blade. They have just deleted the Gyrocopter from the map. He has no buyback, and they also blow up the Batrider. No buyback on him either. This should be a set of racks. Era obviously excellent at sieging these towers with that Aghanim Scepter upgrade. And Diggity, what was such a standoffish game. Just Dagon, Earthblade, Finger their way to victory. Oh, he's actually going to go work on this bottom tower. We see Poison Nova come out. Yapso doesn't care if he dies for the cause. He got his Poison Nova off. They got a melee Rax. They're now working on the bottom lane. Glyph comes out, but this melee Rax is going down unless there is an ace they can pull out on Polarity. And this may be the death throes. Eric gets swapped in, does manage to pop up his BKB. Look at everyone melt to all of Quickfizz spam, and that's it. That's GG. They can take the base here. Polarity will call it. And that's going to be another win. Diggity, 3-0 in their group.
NoDiggity are just looking fantastic to me. I mean, they qualified for Epicenter, they qualified for the Dream League, and they came close, I think, in one of the ESLs, and honestly, this game is the best I've seen. They've just looked so crisp. They look on top of everything from early on, dealing with Tinker being threatened by all the pickoff, by Lion just protecting him, to later on just itemizing correctly, buying Lincolns. The Void, I mean, Kezu's playing phenomenally as well. So I'd be scared of our Polarity going into the next game. NoDiggity really looking strong.
All of that said, I did think Polarity were doing a lot of the right thing. They were getting really good pickoffs with the Batrider, and it was certainly a really great way to counter the Tinker. Tinker did not have the easy run that it looked like he was going to after the initial stages.
They made it very difficult for NoDiggity. I'm just more impressed by NoDiggity because despite all the difficulty given by Polarity, they did all the right things under, I would say, more difficult conditions maybe. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's certainly not it's certainly not impossible for Polarity to even out the series. That's far from what I'm saying right now.
Either way, folks, once again, I'm Llama Down Under. I've been joined by Scansor. You can find us on Twitter by those names. Please give Scansor a follow, thanking him for joining me. We're going to head into Game 2 right quick. Once again, any and all feedback on how we can make the calls better for you, and please enjoy the music while we have a short break between